A headline that I've been seeing making the rounds recently is from the Greens calling for a nationwide rent freeze. Max Chandler Mather, an MP for the Greens, has stated that the Australian federal government should intervene to coordinate a nationwide response to the current housing crisis. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Reese, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about why this call to action in the housing space has been getting a lot of attention as of late. The term skyrocketing rents is not one to brush off as an exaggeration. Nationally, rents have been rising at their fastest rate in 14 years. Just take a look at this data here, which is collated by SQM Research, who track weekly rental prices for all of Australia's major cities. Taking a look at Adelaide, which is where I live, since January of 2020, we have seen the average rent go from approximately $400 per week to where it's currently sitting at the time of recording this video in August of 2022, being approximately $530, which is an increase of 32.5%. Alongside with Adelaide, Brisbane and Perth were amongst the states which have seen the highest rental increases, where Brisbane is sitting at 31.5% and Perth is sitting at a 34% increase over the past 2 years. And to top it all off, the capital city average Australia-wide over the past 2 years is sitting at around about a 22% increase, which I would consider very high when factoring the increase into anyone's weekly budget. And if you were interested in looking at that data for other capital cities within Australia, I've left a link down in the description below to that handy website, so feel free to use that resource if you wish. And now would be a really good opportunity for you to quickly hit that like and subscribe button. It really helps the channel grow, and I really do appreciate the support. Anyway, I have no doubt that we are seeing these rapid increases in rents as a side effect from the pressures being added to landlords from things like rising interest rates, probably the costs associated with the house, such as the emergency services levy and things like council rates and potentially water bills, just to name a few. And by no means am I saying that I believe this is a good solution or the right thing that should be happening. I just believe that as a consequence of rising costs, if the option is available to landlords to raise rents to cover those costs, then they're going to do it. It just makes sense because from their perspective, they don't want to lose money. They're not really thinking about the renters' well-being. They are thinking about themselves. Generally, that's how it goes. It's a dog-eat-dog world. It really is a good example to demonstrate how increased costs get passed on to the consumer. In this instant, tenants are the consumers. It's no different to if you went to a supermarket to buy some tomatoes, a lettuce, a cucumber, and the markets had increased their prices, so supermarkets had to buy them at a premium. They're just going to pass that cost by jacking up the prices of their fruit and veg. It's no different in that scenario. So what the Greens want to see brought into effect is a nationwide rent freeze for 2 years, alongside with rent increase caps at 2% for every 2-year tenancy. They also want to see evictions that have no grounds be banned and the introduction of minimum standards to properties. And personally, I think additional standards for properties to be rented is a very important thing that we should see introduced. Now, what's really interesting is that the last time we saw the Australian government freeze rents was all the way back in 1941, which came off the back burner of a similar situation we're facing today, being high inflation, which back then it was a result of World War II. And I guess that you could also include during the COVID period that the Victorian state government froze rent increases for a very short period of time as well. Now, the reason that this topic is making the rounds or even being discussed at all is due to the need for renting Australians to have the opportunity to catch up financially, whether that be for them to be able to build some savings to support themselves during times of hardship, or to allow for their wages to increase at a rate that can actually support them during these rental increases alongside with the rising costs of living. Currently, the government's response to this call to action has been directed towards the establishment of new programs and further funding to existing programs to tackle the issue at hand, such as their social housing plans, which is intended to alleviate pressure, although there is plenty of speculation suggesting that this solution won't meet the growing demand for homes to live in. Overall, as quoted by the Greens MP that I mentioned earlier, rents are out of control. Millions of Australian renters are struggling to pay the rent, and unless the government wants to see families sleeping in their cars, they need to do their job and act now to stop this crisis boiling over into a national tragedy. We've got workers unable to afford a home near where they work, people being evicted from their homes because they can't afford a 20% rent increase, and the government just sitting on their hands. In my opinion, the solution to this problem is not going to be an easy one or a quick one, to say the least. Freezing rents would be a a short-term solution for some, but doesn't tackle the bigger looming problem. In my opinion, better solutions to this problem would be reforming negative gearing, disincentivizing landlords from keeping properties vacant, expanding rights for renters, such as having long-term leases for 5 or more years, overhauling building standards so Australian homes aren't colder inside than it would be to sleep outside during that period of time, and making renting a viable, safe, secure, and long-term option would be a much better alternative to tackle the problem at hand. But to be completely honest, I have my doubts that any of these will come to pass, especially in the short term, meaning those who are already struggling to stay afloat are going to continue to be put under pressure, and the problem will continue to get worse for now anyway. I know that's kind of a gloomy way to end today's video, but that is where I'm going to end today's video. So I hope you enjoyed. I hope that you learned something, even though it's a kind of sad topic. It's pretty interesting. I don't think this is going to come to pass. The rent freeze as well. And there's lots of other really good videos out there talking about this topic. Definitely have a look into it if you are a renter to try and understand what is going to be happening in this space. I will leave you there. Have a good day. Have a good week. And as always, I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.